I'm Nikki and welcome to the Preppy Possum. Today I'm going to lead you step by step through a painting. All right, today we're going to paint like a pretty full moon road scene. So let's start out by let's grab like a humongous brush. So if you have like a 1-inch brush or something, grab something like that and dry it off. And we'll grab some really light purple. And let's just skip up at least 7-8 inches from the bottom. And we're gonna do like a bumpy little line. Let's kind of bump it in from both edges. And then in the middle, we can kind of flatten it out because that's going to be where our road perspective-wise comes in. All right. So got a bumpy little line that leans in towards the middle, then kind of a straight line at the bottom center. And then keep that purple on your brush. And now let's go ahead and take it up at least like 8 or 9 inches. And just load your brush with a lot of paint right now and go for it because we'll come back and streak a little bit more. That we have, so make sure you bring it up quite a bit because we'll kind of overlap the top into it. So we got our first layer on our sky. Then I would grab just a tiny bit of dark purple with the light. So just a smidge. And let's do just a few like horizontal streaks. I guess I should grab a little bit more. So just so it like barely shows up, but just kind of throw them horizontal. And we'll come back and do this a little bit more once it dries too. And then once you have that, you can kind of wipe that one off just a little bit just to get some of the lavender off of it. But then grab maybe some like dark blue and some black with mainly that like a navy blue with just a tiny bit of black. So same brush, you don't have to rinse it out or anything. Just kind of wipe it off and grab navy blue and some black. And then we'll go ahead and do that all at the top. And don't worry if it's a little streaky because we'll come back and throw another layer. But I would kind of start at the very top and then work your way down into the purple. And just so it's not like a perfect line up here, you kind of want to take it down lower on one side. And we can come back later and like tweak this too. Blend it a little bit more. But that got us a good start to the top part. And then while you still have that dark color, let's keep the navy and black on there with just a little bit of dark gray. And now we're gonna add our little road. So down there at the bottom center where we had that straight line, we're just gonna kind of add that back. And then once you have that straight line with the dark color, then we're just going to do a droopy little line that just droops down to both corners. So you just want to kind of like droop it just a little bit. So then just droop it just a little bit so it hits right above. And then that'll be like a good little start to our road because we'll come back and tweak it. So just grab some of that navy and gray, a little bit of black, and we'll just fill in the whole road just to get a layer on there. So we got a layer on our road. Then just use that same brush, just kind of wipe it off just a smidge and grab some really dark green with even a tiny bit of black. So like a hunter green with a little bit of black, just to make it even darker. And we're gonna go ahead and fill in like where our bushes and trees are on both sides of our road. Just to get a layer on there because we'll come back and make them look more like bushes and trees. But I like to get like all through the center part of the white canvas first, and then we'll take it like all the way to the sky and the road. So just on both sides. And then once you get like all through the middle, then just take it all the way to your road. And all the way to the sky. And we'll do the same thing on the other side. All right, now that we have a layer on everything, let's go ahead and wipe that one off and we'll chunk it in the water and let it dry for just a second. Now that it's a little more dry, let's go ahead and throw like our first little layer of our moon on there. So grab like a number 4 size brush, like a good drawing brush, and dry it off. And let's grab off-white with just a tiny bit of like a pale yellow, because we'll come back and tweak it and add some lights and darks. And now we'll skip right here to where the road touches the sky, and we're gonna throw like a little circle. So just go for it. You can always come back, and if you're at home, you can like use something round if you have it. But you can make yours like bigger or smaller than mine. Just looks good to have like a pretty good size. So that way it's like coming over right over the black top. And we'll have to do a couple layers on this, so just kind of get your first layer on there. And then we'll just fill that all in. Making sure my moon isn't too sideways here, even though we can always chop off a little part. All right, so that's a good start to our moon. I might grab a little bit of some white and off-white just to throw a little bit of that on there, but it's probably too wet right now to finish it up. So So we'll just come back to it. All right, so got that on there, so let's wipe that one off, chunk it in the water, and let's go ahead and grab a black candle brush, so like a number 8, and dry it off and grab some light purple with a little bit of dark purple. So mostly like a lavender or just a little bit of a dark purple. And then we're gonna do some more horizontal streaks to our sky. And this will kind of thicken up anywhere where it was a little thin too. And whenever you're jumping around and streaking, kind of make sure you have some that go off the edges, just so it doesn't look like you just hopped right in and thickened it up. Kind of make sure you're random all over. I'm gonna throw a few down low. And just anywhere where your paint looks like it needs to be thickened up just a smidge. So we got the bottom half of our sky streaked up. So now just kind of wipe that one off, and we're gonna grab more of the like navy blue with a little bit of black and go ahead and thicken up the top part of your sky. And whenever you're doing that, you want it pretty thick, just so it'll kind of make more of an impact. So it'll be really dark at the top. And then I'm just kind of doing streaks just like I did before at the bottom, just so it doesn't end in a perfect line. You kind of want them to blend into your background just a little bit. Got a little on there. And then I can go back in and kind of streak back into that. But that kind of thickened up our sky for a minute. And then we'll do the same thing on the road. That dark blue, but you can even add like a little bit of gray and black, and we'll just throw another layer in through our black top. That way we'll get it good and thickened up, and then we can add our little lines to it. I picked up a little bit of the moon. Then once you have that layer, then we'll go ahead and kind of thicken up our trees and bushes. So just kind of wipe off your extra, and let's throw another layer through them first. So some dark green with a little bit of black. So you don't have to rinse out that number 8 or anything. So grab some of that dark green with a little bit of black And we'll start first by throwing another layer before we come back and bump them. We'll kind of thicken them up first. Just to get our paint good and thickened up, especially at the bottom, like where it touches the road. You want to make sure you get that thicker. All right, now that we've kind of thickened up most of it, then just grab some dark green with maybe like even a little bit of slimy limey green. And we're just gonna bump that all through the tops. So make sure you get some like at the very top edge, and then you wanna bump it even down into the dark a little bit. And it's good that that dark is still wet. Kind of has that like wet on wet technique and makes it look good. But just kind of keep bumping it. And we're going to do the same thing on the other side. So the two greens, and this is probably going to dry a little bit darker than it goes on. So we'll give it a second to dry, and then we'll come back and look at it and add another layer if we need to. But just like we did on the right side, kind of bump it down into the dark. And when you're doing this, load your brush with a lot of paint and then just be really light with it. So don't stab it straight on, kind of dab it with the side of your brush. And then you still want to leave it really dark, like next to your road. Skip around through a few more light bumps just because these are probably going to dry a lot darker than we think. All right, so we got a good little start on our trees and bushes. So let's wipe that one off and chunk it in the water, and we're gonna let it dry for just another second. Let's grab, you could use like a number 1 or a number 4 because we're gonna like line the edge of our road. So if you wanted to start out with like a number 1 and some white paint, so just like a small brush that you have, like a good liner brush, and we're just gonna do a little line that just kind of parallels the edge of the road. But your line can get a little bit bigger as it comes down because that's how perspective would be. So kind of start with it smaller. I might switch to, just because I'm not the best with a teeny tiny brush. I do better with a little bit bigger. Or you could use the tiny brush to do it and then go over part of it, like the bottom part, with like a number 4. But you're just going to do a little line that kind of parallels the outside. And it doesn't have to be perfect because we all know like road lines are not perfect. Picked up a little bit of blue. All right, so now we'll see how that dries, see if we need to tweak it any. But once you have that, we're gonna do something similar down the center. We're gonna do our yellow line. So I would grab like, maybe start off with that teeny tiny brush again, so like a number 1, and grab some golden yellow And you just want to throw a line that like starts off thinner and then it gets thicker as it comes down. So kind of start in the middle. And if you want to just go ahead and like throw your line on there, and then you can thicken it up at the bottom with like a number 4. But let's go ahead and do that. So we'll use like that number 4. Hopefully I got the white off of there. And we'll thicken it up just a smidge like towards the bottom, because perspective wise, it would be like thicker closer to you. It's like if you've ever been close to the lines, they're bigger than they look like when you're speeding by. But for this to be accurately North Carolina, I guess we should put a bunch of potholes. All right, now that we have that, I would use the teeny tiny again, especially at the beginning. And we're gonna do like the little dashes. So like up here at the top, start with your dashes like really tiny and kind of closer together. And then as you come down, they're gonna get longer. So kind of like little dashes. And then you can make them like a little bit longer and thicker, because they're going to be thicker as they get closer to you. So if you want to swap out to a number 4, you can do that too. And I would just kind of go ahead and get them on here, and then if something looks a little cray-cray, you can always like slim it down with some like asphalt color here in a sec. But I think that's good, unless, like, I like things to be a little less perfect, so I might come back and mess them up maybe, or you can mess yours up. I like mine to be real painterly. But once you have that, just kind of wipe off your extra. Let's rinse those out in the water, because now we're gonna work on our moon just a smidge, get it a little bit better looking. So let's grab like a number 4 again. And let's grab mostly like off-white with just a tiny bit of bright white. And we're gonna throw some areas of our moon, because you know how moon kind of looks like holy cheese, kind of. That's what you're going for. You don't want to make it like one solid color. It looks good to have some patches. So I like to kind of bump in a little of the like off-white and white, maybe like more to one side or something. Some holy cheese sounds good right now. All right, so we got, and then I would maybe even like throw a little bit of light, just like over here too, and bump a little down inside your moon. And then the trick to getting like a good smooth edge, no matter what you're doing, is have a lot of paint on your brush and just kind of be real light with it. Sometimes people try to do the opposite and like not have any paint and then be heavy. I like to have a lot and just be real light and loosey-goosey. All right, so we bumped a little bit of really light in there. Let's go ahead and grab, like keep the same off-white on there and grab a little bit more of like some of that pale yellow. And you could even grab just a tiny bit of tan. And let's bump a little bit of that kind of everywhere where we didn't just thicken it up with the light. That's gonna be pretty good. We might have to slim it up a little. But let's go ahead and kind of like make our little lines of our road maybe. Actually, let's hit our trees again, then we can see how that dries. So just wipe that one off, chunk it in the water, but our moon's looking a lot better, which is good. And grab like a number 6, so a little bit smaller than we used before, and we're gonna go back and hit our trees and bushes one more time. So the 2 greens with like a number 6, just because you can see how they dried a little dark, and we want a few patches of light on there. So just like we did before, load it with a lot of paint and just be real light and bump some of this in. And it looks good whenever you're bumping to not do like polka dots, because that'll really jump out at you. Kind of do them in clusters and that'll look a little bit better. All right, so we got it a little bit lightened up. Let's fix that little smudge I did on our sky real quick. So we'll wipe that one off, chunk it in the water, grab a black candle, so like a number 8, and dry it off. And let's grab a little bit more purple. I'm just gonna go back over where, and then I might even like do a few light little strokes into the edge of my sky anywhere if it looked kind of too thick. But I think that's pretty good. And then we'll wipe that one off, chunk it in the water, and let's grab like a number 6 again and dry it off. And now let's, if you need to tweak your line on your road, you might not need to, but I just don't like mine to be like too perfect, so I might go back and mess it up in a few places, or make it a little thinner at the top if you need it to be a little thinner. That helped a little bit. But other than that, I think it's looking pretty good. You could always mess up your center line if it needed to be skinnier at the top. All right, I think we messed it up pretty good. So there we have the moon. Let's go ahead and sign it. So use like a teeny tiny brush to sign. All right, we have the moon over the blacktop. Thank you so much for tuning in today. Be sure to check us out. We're on Cox Street in Asheboro. And be sure to check out our website, www.thepreppypossum.com.